Rudo was born into a world that labeled him a murderer, tossed out by the sphere, abandoned by the people above, and left to rot on the ground. But what if I told you he's not the only one? While the Cleaner organization fights to protect what little hope remains for the world, there's another faction that wants to burn it all to the ground. They don't want peace, they want revenge. And they'll do whatever it takes to wipe out the sky. These are the Raiders, a ruthless group of givers who've abandoned morality, consumed by rage and chaos. Now, what's their goal? Well, it's to gather the legendary Watchman Series, unlock its full power, and bring down heaven once and for all. They started out as a band of regular old thieves, but a few years ago, their crimes got to be a bit more diabolical. The strongest members are part of the front line, a section of the organization that takes orders directly from the mastermind behind the whole operation. His name is Zodyl Typhon. This is a man driven solely by revenge, just like Rudo, and he wants to gain knowledge, a mad scientist who will stop at nothing to achieve his end goal. He has hatred for spherites and heaven, just like Rudo, because of the inequality. And to be honest, he's one of those villains where you can't say he's really wrong. Chapter 54 dives deep into Zodyl's twisted ideology, and it's way too real. He breaks down how anyone with eyes can see the truth. The sphere has everything: food, clothes, technology, but they toss it all away like it's nothing, overflowing with abundance. But sometimes it's not just trash falling to the ground, it's corpses, dead species, some that the ground has never seen before. And yet, life on the ground adapted to this toxic hell. Humans became shaped by their environment, just like the animals. So Zodyl came to a terrifying conclusion. If you want to change society, you have to destroy the environment that created it. That's why he wants to wipe out the sky, to force evolution and to force equality. Now, the manga does a great job because Zodyl is basically a mirror of Rudo. They have the same eyes, the same scent, the same rage. If he found Rudo in chapter 1 instead of Engine, our MC would have become a raider instead. The only difference now is that Rudo found love and friendship, while Zodyl found hate. Zodyl was raised in a cult that worshipped the sphere's trash like divine blessings, and anyone who questioned it were killed. So just like how spherites executed Rudo without a second thought, this is why Rudo pauses when Zodyl reveals all of this, that deep down, he's kinda right. If our common sense is shaped by madmen and crazy people, then maybe the only cure is to burn it all down. We then find out later in chapter 116 that in the past, Zodyl was left homeless after a devastating war. He and his family were indoctrinated into a cult that worshipped the trash from the sphere as a gift from God. But one day, his family was sacrificed according to their so-called blessing. He couldn't do a thing to save them. Every single member of his family were killed in front of his eyes. I mean, just take a look at this panel. It does remind you of Eren Yeager seeing his mum getting eaten by Titan. It's absolutely peak and fire. However, one day, Zodyl found the legendary Watchman Series code, and just like Eren Yeager once said, if you decide to take my freedom, I won't hesitate to take yours and kill you. Well, Zodyl literally says the same thing, stating that if in this world things are taken from you no matter how hard you fight, then this time, I'll be the one doing the taking. As a result, Zodyl formed the Raiders organization and decided that he would gather every part of the Watchman Series to destroy the world. His face is in complete rage and unhinged, just like Rudo, when their so-called curse of anger is active, removing their shells and their true self is released. He definitely falls into the insane category, which one must be in to properly hold the Watchman Series since it's too strong. Zodyl puts it as having left an integral piece of his humanity somewhere. And just like Rudo, there is another parallel. Zodyl doesn't like anything good going to waste. During their first conversation in chapter 49, bro straight up tells Rudo that when he gives an answer, he gives one back, and to stop avoiding the subject. The last thing he wants is for Rudo to waste his words. Zodyl is also highly intelligent. He created a artificial Watchman Series, and whilst this failed, he learned that his failed experiment could be used as a core, that when given vital instruments to absorb, it's used as an offering to evolve into a giant trash beast, which he eventually attempts to use as a way to cross the seemingly indestructible barrier that separates the ground and sky during a trash storm that occurs only once every 6 years. He was also the one who set up a contract with the cleaners that another spherite like Rudo had been cargo for a merchant, when in reality this was a trap to capture Rudo via Jabbar. And perhaps his biggest FU moment is when Armor was locked up by Tamsi, who has nothing to do with the Vandal, but Zodyl purposely had Jabbar go back and take the Watchman Series boots, and when he introduces himself to Rudo in chapter 46, he just dangles them right in front of him, knowing that it will get his attention and lead him to think they have armor. However, that's his genius out the way, but let's talk about his powers and why he is one of the strongest characters we've ever seen. This is Mishra, which Zodyl has used to create and control spiky appendages to attack enemies, as well as fly. Given that traveling to other towns takes days in a car by the admittance of the cleaners, this grants Zodyl the ability to travel long distances fast and have great versatility in combat. Each time Zodyl uses his power, he gains face markings, each representing a different one. This ties back into the origins of the cult's name, as Mishra is the Sanskrit word which can mean multiple. Zodyl is basically built different like Rudo, where he can use multiple powers. At the time, Rudo was already strong enough to tear through entire trash beasts with ease, but Zodyl completely overpowered him. Even Engine, an experienced giver and team leader, he was forced to go full defense, just trying to survive. And when Engine unleashed his signature drill attack, Zodyl dodged it like it was a joke. That's not even the craziest part. Later on, Rudo goes up against the King of Tori in No Man's Land, where these guys are literal god tier trash beasts. Rudo transforms a simple box into a giant Cerberus and one-shots the thing, swallowing it whole. And even so, Zodyl is still stronger than that. His vital instrument, Mishra, is similar to Rudo's 3R gloves from chapter 108, but instead of transforming objects, Zodyl gains powers by literally eating them. So far, he's eaten a sandwich, a bird, a cockroach, and absorbed their traits. And when you understand his backstory, it makes perfect sense. After the war, Zodyl grew up starving in a wasteland. He had no choice but to eat whatever he could find. That trauma became instinct, leading to the nature of cult requiring him to eat different food to gain the powers. But now let's talk about Zodyl's recruitment process to become a raider. Like, there's this dude named Konza. This man debuted in chapter 12, one of the first enemies the cleaners ever fought, and he didn't even get his name until chapter 90. That's 78 chapters of background extra energy like I'm a side character fodder. Then Zodyl paired him up with another no-name Vandal chick who could create mud and clay dolls using her vital instrument. Together, their plan was to kidnap Rudo. And what actually happened? Well, they got washed and instantly no-diff by Zanka. And I'm not even exaggerating here. Zanka didn't even break a sweat. He mopped up the fight like they're just tutorials for Rudo to get stronger and moved on like they never existed. But it gets even funnier. Despite that failure, Konza stayed in the organization for a while, until eventually Zodyl gave up and kicked him out like he's expired trash. So what does Konza do? He gets caught by the Hellguard, led by Kyoka Nikiju. This dude really thought his mud shoes, which give him an edge in swap terrain, was gonna do anything. But Kyoka just said nah. She pulls out the gun, the 9, and finishes him off. However, this does inform us that there are countless amount of raiders out there besides the ones we already know. Many people resent the sphere after all and want to join the cause to destroy it. But as the story moves forward, it's very telling that Zodyl is a good leader just like Engine. Every raider is willing to die for it, but he couldn't recruit Jabbar through charm. He actually had to beat him in a fight. After all, Jabbar is a man who gets a boner from fighting.
What did he say?
I'm being serious. This dude even uses poison on himself to turn into a feral monster to win a fight. He's a psychotic masochist, obsessed with violence and only acknowledges the strong. Someone like Gris is below a NPC to him, as a weak person like Gris wasn't worth anything to Jabbar after he defeated him. This fixation on the strong is due to his past, where he used to get into fights with people stronger than him, eventually becoming the top dog himself. At this point, he was better than everyone, leading him to no longer enjoy the thrill of battle. He would even hold back his vital instrument in order to have a proper challenge, meaning he was nerfing himself. That's why when he rarely finds a challenge, Jabbar wants to savor every moment of it, letting his desire take full control of him, disregarding enemies, allies, and his own well-being. Jabbar basically worships strength, not in the shallow power scaling sense, but as an emotional truth. All that matters is that your strength tells a story worth bleeding for. Take his fight with Rudo at the start of the series. When Rudo transforms Gris's lucky charm into a vital instrument, the mere sight of this causes this man to start drooling. Unfortunately for him, the charm only defends, being able to predict Jabbar's moves and avoid them. This causes him to realize that the weapon only responds to hostility. So what does he do? Well, he injects himself with poison to forget all reason. Jabbar admits the pain is unbearable, but he loves it. He fights to suffer beautifully. A madman will do anything to get his vital instrument going. And when Andor, his teammate, forcibly retreats him before he dies in combat against Engine, he screams in frustration, not because he lost, but because the fight ended too soon. This same type of behavior is showcased later in chapter 53, when Jabbar is fighting Zanka. Zanka realizes that, wait a second, oh my god, this Jabbar guy is him. And he even gets pissed that this dude said everything up to now was just him having fun and that he was holding back. Zanka declares Jabbar a genius prodigy whilst he is average. Jabbar then claims that he's free, that their ideologies, factions, or beliefs mean nothing now. All they should do is go all out. He gives him a sedative that makes him go crazy temporarily. And instead of killing him, Jabbar takes the same poison he gave Zanka because he wanted a good high. But as you can already tell, Jabbar scales extremely high in terms of raw strength, beating both Zanka and Rio with ease. He has blitzing speed that allows him to move faster than the blink of an eye, even capable of running faster than the eye can see, which means he is capable of going around 360 to 600 kilometers per hour. His vital instrument is called Mankira. These 10 rings around Jabbar's fingers transform into sharp claws laced with different poison. He also has the ability to copy new poisons from plants and animals, where he can mix them together to create new ones. So by touching any substance, he can instantly replicate it and store it in his claw for immediate use. He's shown to switch to acid, paralysis, or lethal blends depending on the target. Sometimes he overrides his own nervous system with anesthesia to completely nullify pain. So even if his body's broken, he won't flinch. He'll keep fighting like nothing happened, bringing his durability up to the top tier strongest characters. But when he gets aroused, busting a nut, out comes his true released form. Jabbar's abilities all get a significant stat boost, with his claws increasing in size. These better claws can also be used for both defense and offense mode, as seen when he blocks Zanka's staff in chapter 55. This dude, he's basically casually ripping steel, brick walls, and he's more like Wolverine. It's only his fight in the Information Broker arc where we see him really struggle. High snaps Jabbar's arm like it's nothing. He slams him into the ground with such force that it shatters the highway and tears through the surrounding trash beast with terrifying ease. But instead of getting angry or lashing out, Jabbar just lies there smiling through the pain as he states, "Cheers to treachery. I always knew Fu was hella tough." And that moment basically tells us everything we need to know about Jabbar's character. He doesn't care that Fu betrayed the Raiders. He doesn't care that he lost. He's just in awe of pure ecstasy, stating that Hai has pure strength, declaring him as strong. But speaking of beautiful strength, Noerde is a member of the Celia tribe. They were once a proud group of female warriors who lived in the town of Sinozama. The group was so beautiful that travelers would literally come to their village just to sweet talk them and try to smash. However, this one great tribe was wiped out 6 years ago from a trash downpour, which destroyed the village and turned it into a polluted zone. This gave Noerde one more reason to hate the Spherites and Heaven, since trash storms occur once every 6 years because of them. It's a natural disaster like a tornado, where debris flies around resulting in a very destructive mess. But Noerde left. Why? Well, because she wanted to get into Zodyl's pants. At some point in the past, Zodyl had visited Celia and met her, praising her hair. This caused her to act hostile towards Zodyl, thinking he was trying to sleep with her. But instead, he had no interest and actually ended up making her fall for him anyway. Madman has so much aura and riz without even knowing it. She's so much of a simp that her vital instrument, her most precious item to her, is a hair comb given to her by Zodyl. This comb allows her hair to get charged up with static electricity. Anyone that touches it is instantly electrocuted, but she has to recharge every minute or two, which means she has to be smart when using this power. She then reveals her hair being like nerves, and she can reform and move it any way she sees fit. So like other Vandals, she was put up against a cleaner during the trash storm arc. In Noorde's case, it was Rio. Now, you'd think that Rio's got this in the bag, but her attacks are dodged, and she's paralyzed by Noorde's vital instrument. These two are about equal in strength, until, Rio pulls out the gun, the 9, and shoots her, where Noorde thinks,
oh my god, that's a hitman. Guns are rare. Why does she have a gun?
so she instantly loses the battle. This is because she thought all the cleaners were technically clean, right? But nah, Rio is out for blood and won't hesitate to get her hands dirty. After recovering, she decides to keep the cleaners busy long enough for the flying trash beast to cross the border between ground and sky. She reminisces on the past and her love for Zodyl, stating that she's just a pawn. Zodyl is just using her as a tool, but that's fine with her. What's better than going all out to fulfill the dreams of your hus? And so, Noorde unleashes her full power, Last Burst, where she discharges a stream of electricity over a large area at the cost of her hair completely burning out. It's basically like casting Kirin or Thunder across anywhere she desires. So single-handedly, she knocks out all the cleaners, including the strongest like Engine, frying them into crispy chicken. However, this last resolve ultimately fails, as Rudo had already partially destroyed the wall of the beast with his nail gun, causing Noorde to be sucked up by the air pressure and flung out to the sky. But that's when something even more crazy is revealed. As Noorde finally reaches the edge, freedom within arm's reach, she gazes up at the vast sky for the very first time in its beauty. She's overwhelmed in awe, but then she sees it. The Watchman entity appears, and in that moment, just by locking eyes with it, her entire world shatters. It's like a truth bomb detonates inside her mind. Her whole life flashes before her eyes, and then she realizes something no one else has. If Zodyl crosses the barrier, everything he holds there will be destroyed. This isn't just a border, it's a line that once crossed takes everything from you. But Noorde doesn't die. She's found by Hio, and now she holds information that can change everything. Whether the Hell God extract that truth through interrogation or Noorde chooses to cooperate, one thing is clear. She now knows the cost of Zodyl's mission, and it's far more than any of them were prepared for. So if you want to learn more about this huge Watchman entity and what it is, watch my previous video that explains it. I cover it in extreme detail, and please like the video and hit the notification bell if you are enjoying our Gachiakuta content. Also, if you love the series as much as I do, we now have a shirt. It features Team Akuta in color blocks, and it will help support me to keep producing these videos. I will leave the link in the pinned comment and description. Use code ABD for 10% off. But let's move on to Cthoni Andor. She's easily one of the most useful members of the Raiders, as her vital instrument is a manhole that allows her to teleport herself and other people to different locations instantly. However, this comes with limitations. In bright places, she can only warp to pipes and manholes, but in the dark, she's unrestricted and can go anywhere she wants, even having the power to adjust the size of her manhole. She holds great respect for Zodyl, never once disobeying an order and always doing her best to ensure his plans succeed. Her quiet attitude works great with her powers. Why? Because it allows her to be unnoticed and sneak up on people. She's also the exact opposite of Jabbar. She's not really a fighter and instead has a more realistic outlook on combat, knowing when she or her allies are way out of their league. A perfect example of this is when she yeets Jabbar away from his first battle with Rudo. My man was about to ult F4 just to bust a nut, but Cthoni Andor knew how useful of an asset this dude was to the Raiders. But her best feat by far is when she single-handedly isolates the cleaners from the outside world, trapping them in the giant trash beasts where they'll duke it out with other members of the Raiders. During all these fights, she was taking notes on them regarding their abilities and personalities, and then reports it to Zodyl that the cleaners haven't been defeated yet. You know, because they're the MCs of the shonen manga. And so, Zodyl orders her to send him to the trash beast core to finish up the plan. I mean, if we take a look at the information broker arc, in chapter 99, due to the tunnel having no light, her full power is released, where she instantly teleported hundreds and hundreds of trash beasts instantly for the cleaners to deal with. She even despises Fu for betraying the Raiders, claiming anyone that goes against Zodyl must pay the price. Her plan would have instantly worked to overwhelm Engine and the gang if it wasn't for Rudo's 3R gloves using the brush to deal with the beasts. But the next raider is Bundus. This Unk was the MVP for the Raiders during the Trash Storm arc. He's widely regarded as one of the strongest characters in Gachiakuta. Bundus is genuinely curious about the world and the people he's meant to fight. In fact, when he first meets Bro and Deer, he doesn't attack immediately. Instead, he starts a conversation, probing for information about Arca Corvus, the leader of the cleaners. And then he reveals he's working for Zodyl to receive a gift of Canis the Undertaker, the man who held all the 6 Watchman series and had the answers regarding the past from 6 generations ago. This shows us the kind of person Bundus is. He's driven by a personal philosophy of discovery. His motives aren't pure destruction. He claims he's not hostile unless necessary, and even when tasked with eliminating the cleaners, he seems more interested in understanding them. This man actually has a soft heart. He calls dear Santa adorable child and even wishes the kid a happy 10th birthday mid-fight. But when the fighting actually begins, Bundus claims Bro needs to stop this. Although he loves children, we must teach them the reality of life and shield them from things that will do them harm. He was overpowering them both and didn't want to cause a child harm because of his own story where he lost his arms, until, you know, that same kid blew up an entire mountain. But what does his weapons actually do? Well, his first prosthetics became his vital instrument that evolved at each stage of his life. He now has 6 long mechanical arms, each one custom built to counter a specific opponent's ability. Hand number 1 can reach anything he sees. Hand number 2, received at age 18, becomes a sharp talon that cuts on contact. Hand number 3, received at age 20, stretches to insane distances for long-range attacks. Hand number 4 is still a mystery ability, but it has showcased the same powers as the others. Hand number 5, received at age 36, takes on random shapes and attack patterns, making the opponent clueless on what they can do. And finally, hand number 6, received at age 40, grows massive and becomes nearly invulnerable. Basically, this dude's powers accumulate all the lessons he's learned into a single item. And then, in chapter 73, he drops a bombshell. He states, "Bruh, I'm actually a rookie." And then Team Bros, they're in shock because there's no way a rookie fights like a polished war vet who's mastered 6 different combat styles at once. It turns out Bundus was holding back the whole time, and when he gets serious, this man almost solos Team Akuta. He fights Bro, Deer, Engine, Rio, and Rudo at the same time. Rudo's nail guns become useless. Engine's drill umbrella was blocked. Rio's scissors could not cut anything. Bundus dominates them all. And that's when Bro had to admit it. Bundus is a master level giver because within an instant, he figured out everyone's powers and created a counter for them. So honestly, if Rudo hadn't unlocked concentration mode and turned his nail gun into a literal bazooka, he could have won. However, in chapter 75, when Rudo destroys his hands, Bundus says that it's always hard to see them falling apart. Even if he can fix them, it gets him right in the heart. These feelings and care for them is what makes them stronger and stronger over decades, since the more care you show your weapon, the more powerful it gets. Zodyl later promotes Bundus to the star team, solidifying his rise through the raider ranks. But even in success, he questions Zodyl's morality and his plan. He realizes that the cleaners and their own comrades are treated like lab rats in a giant experiment. So to Bundus, he goes along. He's just here to document every variable, even if it means becoming the villain to discover the truth about the past, just like Rudo. Now, the next raider we need to talk about is Momoa, the girl who got into the front lines of the apocalypse without ever throwing a punch? Unlike other raiders who dominate with raw power, Momoa's vital instrument is music. As a child, Momoa immersed herself in sound, hiding from the horrors of the world with her headphones on. Even after her headphones broke, she kept wearing them. Not for comfort, but because that silence helped her focus on one thing at a time. That mental focus awakened her vital instrument called Asyl, an ability that lets her touch someone and instantly hear their memories. And Zodyl saw so much value in that, he made her part of the raider front lines, despite her having 0 combat skills. Now that might sound wild until you realize what her power can actually do, because her vital instrument doesn't just peek at surface level thoughts. It lets Momoa immerse herself into someone's entire world. Every thought, every lie, every memory, every name you've ever been called, even if it spans over a century. When we first meet her, a creep tries to hit on her. He's trying to smash, but she uses her vital instrument to drive him away, revealing all his past and secrets, which scares him away like a puss. However, during the information broker arc, the raiders race the cleaners to reach Kuro. Once she's close enough, she activates her vital instrument and tries to dive into Kuro's memories. But here's where things get crazy. Kuro knows about her ability, and this is where Momoa realizes that she's not dealing with some ordinary person. Kuro has been alive for multiple centuries, and he's prepared counter memories inside his own mind just to mess with her. Momoa is immediately hit with a tidal wave of memories, like images of monsters made of trash when they first appeared, whispers about Canis Shorebreak, the Undertaker, glimpses of ancient history that no one else remembers, and she tries to process it all to remember. But then Kuro appears inside his own memory. He pokes her in the eyes and tells her, "This isn't me, I'm just a message I planted." And that basically breaks her. Her brain overloads and she collapses screaming in the real world. Kuro says that she'll be knocked out for a month at a minimum. And he also gave the raiders some special information within her, and part of the deal for cheating to get his info without paying the price is that they won't have access to it until Momoa wakes up again. Zodyl then immediately grabs her and flies off, choosing to protect Momoa rather than stay and fight. Now, if you want to learn and enjoy more peak fiction of Gachiakuta, watch this video on your screen right now regarding the cleaners, where I explain every single thing you need to know about them.